This is Sybert signing into Kane's Wrath on the map. Tournament Dustbowl. Of course, this is the no poker variant in the north as the yellow GDI. This is Drive. And in the south, I'm very glad to see this guy back at it as the green nod. It's Eclipse. I'm used to Drive playing green. He's one of those players who normally does play green, so it's kind of thrown me for a loop that he's playing yellow. And I always want to say green Drive. But in this case, Drive versus Eclipse. I don't know how long Drive has been playing Kane's Wrath. By the way, opener's looking pretty standard from both guys. I don't know how long Drive has been playing Kane's Wrath, but Eclipse is always in my mind as one of those older school players, Technique, Spectre Eclipse from a long, long time ago. And Drive is in my mind as a new school player. So this feels like almost the clashing of the Titans, one of the best players in the scene right now today, versus one of the old greats. And, you know, this is a relatively recent game, February 2021, so is Eclipse up to full power? Is Eclipse just playing casually? Who knows? Who cares? As long as we are getting to see some interesting games, this doesn't have to be some kind of like scientific understanding of are old players better than new players and that whole discussion, which usually doesn't make any sense. But in my mind, this is the clashing of the old school and the new school. And to be honest, how different are the two schools? Really, probably not that different, but we shall see. Quick or regular MCV move timing coming out from Drive in the north, and the same thing from Eclipse in the south. No trenches here, so easy MCV deployment on both sides. And, well, if you wanted just a standard macro game, GDI versus Nod, as classic as you could possibly get, this is it. I guess we're not on Tournament Rift, which would make it 1% more classic to be on Rift. Or they could be playing their, like, more faction-specific colors, red versus orange, or whatever GDI's color is, which, you know, Drive is pretty close to, but you have to give it to them for being just gentlemen about this, no rush, 20 minutes kind of thing. As a buggy going for the scout from Eclipse. A couple of Scorpion tanks going to be coming out from him after that. And of course a couple of pit bulls, but these are not too much aggression pit bulls. He did not go for crazy fast pit bulls to try and go for some kind of an attack right out of the gate. Sometimes you'll see players get those 4 to 5 pit bulls and put pressure on just as a way that if your opponent does slip up, if they're playing 5% worse than they normally do, then you can get a kill on a harvester and feel very good about yourself generally. A couple of pit bulls skating over to the right side of the map. 4 of them. I think there's a 5th one somewhere running around, but maybe he didn't get sent out to play with his friends. 4 pit bulls, but the Scorpion tanks from Eclipse will be able to deal with this. The rocket troopers as well. First refinery, 3 harvesters on the expansion field for Eclipse. First refinery, 2 harvesters on the expansion field for Drive. So very slight differences, but ultimately very, very similar in almost every conceivable way from these two players. A couple of buildings being taken up by residents by Drive in the middle of the map, forcing Eclipse to kind of drive around that. Main field's starting to dry up, but what is the commitment to tech versus expanding? Well, there's the Tier 2, the command post coming out from Drive. The battle markers in the middle of the map always distracting me, even though it's just riflemen and militant squads shooting against each other in buildings. But airfield going down for Drive, Operations Center up and running for Eclipse. And it looks like these guys both teching up before the 3rd expansion. Most players do that. You know, you get your Tier 3 up and running on your 2 base kind of play, and then you expand outward from there, taking your 3rd while you get your avatars or mammoth tanks or whatever it is that you're deciding to go for. Finally, that building in the middle of the map getting cleared up. A couple of hammerheads coming out for Drive, and they get immediately spotted by Eclipse, so you got to hand it to Eclipse for the scouting. No second War Factory, it looks like, coming out from Drive, so he's just sticking with the single War Factory production. There's AP ammo just finishing as we were scrolling over the, holographic army showing up. Is this going to be a one-click? Getting some scouting information. There's the Tier 3. There's the TIB Catalyst missile. Here we go. So pretty good spot. Drive time for these harvesters is going to be increased, as this is going to cause a parking lot outside of one of those refineries. And there's the air tower coming up for Eclipse. Once again, very much a gentleman's game, a no-rush 20 minutes kind of feeling from these guys. So we'll have to see where they're going in the late game. No big swell of army from either one of these guys where you get a million billion Tier 1 tanks out and just go for Scorps until the end of days. Maybe you get the upgrade later on, maybe you don't, and you just try and subsist on only those low-tech units. Although, Drive, your MCV is kind of headed in an unusual direction. And it may be headed in a direction which will conflict with Eclipse. This might be a bit of a wonky setup, as Drive is looking to potentially take a third at the exact same spot that Eclipse is taking his own third. No mammoth tanks. It's going to be Juggernauts as the choice for Drive. I assume railguns are on the way, and actually he's already dropped down the Reclamator hub, so I guess this is a double MCV move. I did not realize that at first. Scorpion tanks with their laser capacitors now going to be trying to do a bit of damage to the Reclamator hub with the sonic emitter and the closing in forces of Drive. I don't know that that'll be enough. That's actually forcing a sell-off. No! Oh, it was going to be a Vapor Bomb as well. So everything coming in here for Eclipse, and that's a good way to just cost some money to Eclipse when you're, you're certain your Reclamator hub is already going to be going down. So you cancel the Marv, you get the cash back a little bit sooner, and then you get the sell of that Reclamator hub. So you've got that much going for you, even though that is a big reset on the timer there for Drive. Orca Strike going to be coming in, does miss the timing on getting the kill, or on getting the damage on the Redeemer as it spawns in, but the Redeemer Engineering Facility itself going to be taking a bit of damage. More sonic emitters potentially on the way. There's the rebuild of the Reclamator hub. I love the positioning there, so the Marv can immediately get to Marvisting away that field, denying the Tiberium from his opponent, but also capturing it for himself. A great move there by Drive. A lovely little positioning play, and also, it's just slightly away, further away from the attacking forces of Eclipse. Sonic emitter versus Obelisk. In this case, the addition of the rocket squads definitely does help out. The Redeemer on the field as the army cuts a little bit to the left here into the middle of the map. Drive and Eclipse tussling here with their low-tech units as their Juggernauts and their Tier 4s get onto the field. And this is no Marked of Kane Redeemer with a sissy TIB Chemical Trooper inside of it. That's a real proper flamer inside of there. Rage Gen fires off, unfortunately, for Drive. His one Mammoth tank also killing off some of the Predator tanks, as there is the Marv popping on out. The immediate sell-off of the Reclamator hub, and no big army to support this Redeemer. How many times have we seen an epic unit step its way onto the field, not get supported, and get immediately annihilated? And in this case, there isn't much of an army behind it. Drive's Marv either, but if he plays it out a little bit more slowly, the sonic emitters and the artillery firing from afar, he may be able to just come out ahead in the engagement in the long run. Disruption Tower down, providing a little bit of stealth and a little bit of survivability for these buildings and these units as they try desperately to escape. Frontline Obelisk versus a frontline War Factory. The repair versus the damage output. Who will win? And of course the Obelisk loses that fight. Would like to see an expansion over to the third field from one of these guys. Obviously Eclipse is going to be pressured to potentially move there more quickly, as he's going to have to pull a real magic trick out of his bag to try and come back from this situation. If he had Raider buggies with with EMP coils, maybe he would have a chance. But he's actually got literally nothing. I expected to see a man spam transition. I expected to see a ton of scorpions or something, but there is literally nothing going on. He's just going for stealth tanks and a couple of scorpions with some venoms going for the kill on an MCV, so this could actually be a base trade scenario. The thing about the Marv is it's extremely slow, so if you've got fast mobile units that can kill buildings and move on, Eclipse actually has a shot here to take this game in a scrappy way without ever directly fighting the army of Drive. That's one MCV down, but Drive has got a Marv. He's got an MCV. He can rebuild and kind of hold himself up over on the right side of the map. A couple of Venoms going to be splitting off with a single stealth tank over to the right side of the map to try and shut down the economy of Drive. This is a great move here by Eclipse. Not a lot of anti-air here to deal with the Venoms, but of course the Venoms not really doing that much damage in the stealth tank, not really that much health to survive any shots off from Drive, but this is keeping Drive in his base. A couple of these harvesters may actually end up getting crushed inadvertently by the Marv, and goodbye one harvester full of Tiberium, and a second harvester will narrowly escape the wrath of that Marv, at least for a moment. Does take a couple of shots there. Once again, no Tier 2, I think, so no additional AA batteries, as I think the command post got cleaned up earlier on in this match. 2 fully loaded power plants and no ability to upgrade further power plants, as Drive has found himself in a very unusual situation. Eclipse needs to kill off these power plants, and he needs to do it quickly. A couple of APCs going to be targeting down those Venoms. The stealth tank, we always got to keep an eye on the stealth tank. It's low on health, and APC or APA ammo APCs will clean up a stealth tank, but one more AP ammo APC getting eliminated. And honestly, the power plant's getting killed off, but the stealth tank might be the better move here. It's the slower move, but letting the stealth tank get the kill on both of these power plants may be the thing to do. We'll have to see if that stealth tank goes all the way up to heroic status, because that would be an incredible move indeed. This is what I was expecting to see from Eclipse. Yeah, a bunch of rocket dudes out, ready to pump out some damage onto a Marv, and Eclipse has done an incredible job of just buying himself barely enough time to be able to get out some kind of an army. He can't go up against the GDI forces directly in an assault, but he can hold the line potentially if the Marv goes for the attack. Although, harvester hunting being the name of the game for Drive, as he cleans up 2 harvesters very nicely there. A couple more harvesters going down could completely cut the throat on the economy of Eclipse. He may have literally like 1 Tiberium load worth of harvesters of Tiberium, 1 load worth of Tiberium left on the map under his control if he loses access to that field on the left side. Scorpion tanks kind of reforming in the north. They're going to be looking for a potential opening to try and do some damage on the right side of the map, while Drive is distracted over here on the left side of the map. Eclipse slowly walking his MCV to that 3rd base location, and as it turns out, he's going to take the triangle base formation rather than the L formation, which is the more traditional formation of expansions. Railguns and a sniper team inside of this Marv to deal with all of this damage output. This Marv is going to take a ton of damage right out of the gate, but I don't think there's enough HP in the units to survive. Although he's actually targeting down the building, he would have had to start targeting down the stealth tanks and then run over all of the infantry to be able to survive. This Marv is actually going to be getting eliminated just for nothing, for so little. Drive letting that Marv go down, and that was the strength of his army. He now has very little left that has a lot of hit points. Everything he has is not as tanky as the Marv, and if he would have waited, I don't know, 1 more minute, all of this stuff could have been converging at the same time. Eclipse is going to have to back up everything over to where his MCV is and try and make some kind of last-ditch stand, but he's got literally nothing left. He drops a refinery. Oh, if he would have been able to reform a front line. But he's trying something else. Oh man, these Scorpion tanks with their laser capacitors. I think this might be too little too late for Eclipse. Oh no, this is Black Hand and a militant squad over there. No, Eclipse. Wait, where did this oh, the Redeemer. I forgot he walked the MCV over there, so he actually does still have something left. He's vulnerable to EMP, but I'm not sure how many EMP options are actually on the table for Drive at this point. He's got no shockwave artillery. He does have double war factory and not much economy, which is a life that we all live at some point, while either accidentally or intentionally. The MCV south of his third field, kind of moving towards the natural expansion of Eclipse, the original natural expansion. The barracks is back up, lots of rocket troopers being produced. That Redeemer standing out front. This is going to be a good rage gen position to rage gen, get a couple of shots off, and then back away and go for the man spam overwhelm. Who killed that harvester? Aha, these stealth tanks retreating away. 2 single vet stealth tanks. They're not up to that elite status or the heroic status just yet. Another harvester going to be protected from its long-distance mining trip by Drive. This game flip-flopping a number of times, coming down to those epic units, keeping players in the game. Drive barely not able to close out the game purely because of that Redeemer. If that Redeemer didn't exist, Drive could have actually just walked across the map and killed all of Eclipse's stuff faster than Eclipse could have killed his stuff, because Eclipse had like the stealth tanks and the Scorpion tanks, but they wouldn't have killed the few buildings that Drive had faster than all of Drive stuff would have killed the very, very few buildings that Eclipse has. Or had at that time, rather. Eclipse actually has a decent number of buildings now, a couple of refineries and a war factory to really round out his infrastructure. Rage Gen should be firing off momentarily here, and actually going to be turning around first. A couple of extra kills on this GDI army. 1 Predator tank goes down. Perhaps a second one will be... Nope, does not get eliminated. Unfortunately for Eclipse, he didn't get a big win there with that Rage Gen, but killing a couple of pit bulls and forcing these harvesters back with not much Tiberium in them, or at least not 4 full loads of Tiberium to be delivered to Drive's base, which is certainly an advantage for Eclipse. What a bizarre and scrappy game this has certainly turned into. 1 harvester sticking around a little bit too late and gets eliminated by the forces of Eclipse. 1 APC may actually be giving away its life, not with its APC buddies, and actually with good focus firing, 2-3 more APCs may be going down as Eclipse gets an opportunity to kind of even the odds with those rocket squads. 3 APCs extremely low on health, just waiting to be killed off, and... uh-oh, where's that Redeemer? You always got to keep an eye on a Redeemer. Nod players love to send out their Redeemer when it's stealthed like it's invincible. And then every once in a while it gets jumped on and just absolutely destroyed. Trying to dodge the mortars, it's something that can be done, but the Pitbull doesn't actually get the kill, and yes it does. An elite stealth tank being eliminated by a Pitbull, but also eliminating the Pitbull. So there's just a net loss of veterancy in this game. I'm not actually sure what that MCV cell was all about. I mean, he's got the Redeemer nearby, but the Redeemer isn't going to insta-kill an MCV. I guess maybe he just wanted the cash back on it because he's got a little bit of a setup and he's got some kind of a... Oh my gosh, this 1 harvester. He's got a little bit of a setup and he's got, you know, enough to get him by for the next couple of minutes, especially with the War Factory. He's able to reproduce that MCV. This harvester literally being bullied into a corner and now going to be slowly but surely killed off by these rocket squads as Eclipse gets the kill there. And this is one of those situations where both players want to be very careful that they don't engage with part of their army before the rest of their army is there. The Redeemer needs to be here to help engage with this. Otherwise, the man spam will eventually be overwhelmed. Actually, no, all of the APCs are gone, so it's just the pit bulls. Then they can definitely take that. That man spam can definitely take those few pit bulls. But I imagine when the rest of Drive's army gets here, it'll be a bit of a different story. 2 stealth tanks still roaming around the map. Mines getting dropped by Eclipse to try and trap those Pitbulls, and he does manage to get a couple of them. Pitbull's going to try and escape around the left edge of the map. Good move there by Eclipse to just narrowly get out of the range of all of the rocket squads and the Redeemer. Drive starting to collapse in on the base of Eclipse. This could be a do-or-die situation, as maybe he's just going to be going for the buildings rather than trying to fight the army straight up. The man spam getting caught a little bit behind some of the buildings and not really engaging with the rest of this army. The Redeemer steps forward, and the Redeemer gets surrounded. Mine drop on top of these APC, or from this APC, as the Redeemer goes for the crush, but it itself gets destroyed. Is there enough stealth tanks? Are there enough rocket squads to stop Drive's army? He's got the behemoths, he's got the juggernauts rather, on the front line. Or not on the front line, but helping out the front line, as there is the Redemptioner. I actually don't remember what that support power is called. It's supposed to spawn in some Awakened squads, I believe, but I don't think anything actually died there to be spawned in. The man spam from the north, it bullied the Harvester. Now it's coming back to try and make a difference in this game. A couple of Pitbulls and a couple of APCs may not be enough. If the targeting is good enough from Eclipse, can he actually kill off the units that are killing him off? More APCs swinging in from the left side, one of them even in elite status, as they do clean up every single rocket squads. The Marvs, the Redeemers have been eliminated, but the rocket squads remain. The Pitbulls and the APCs remain, not even the Predator tanks. As the stealth tanks coming in from the right side, 4 of them in concert to clean up this war factory just barely with like a volley and a half of missiles. One refinery survives, one war factory survives, and Drive, even if he has the better army in a straight-up fight, has been unable to produce that straight-up fight to try and get a win directly in this game. Somehow, someway, Eclipse has been hanging on by his fingertips, but he's also been pushing Drive off of the same cliff, and Drive is now also in like the equal situation where he just can't do anything. If he tries to strike out, the stealth tanks can swing around and backstab him at almost any moment in this game. Even with his army back home, he can't be protecting all fronts at once. The power plant might be exposed, or the war factory, or the refinery. The disadvantage of having your buildings this spread out. Somehow, these tip spikes have actually survived, and I don't know why that is. Either one of these players should have eliminated their opponent's tip spike at some point in this game, but they simply haven't. And this is the moment where Drive really thinks to himself, can I do this? He just dropped an obelisk. I haven't had an MCV or any kind of tech for like 5 or 6 minutes now. If that guy dropped an obelisk, what does he have going on that I do not? The answer is basically everything. Sell-off of the war factory, sell-off of the power plant. The stealth tanks were coming in for the final strike, and that will do it. Eclipse takes the game. GDI versus Nod. Sometimes the classics are the best, and what a weird game. For some of you who don't like the giant armies clashing all the times, where it's just a move into each other, infinite Predator tanks versus infinite Scorpion tanks, and then you both transition into crazy amounts of infantry. This is the game for you. Thank you all very much for watching. Big shout out to Eclipse for coming back and playing some awesome games for us. Always glad to see this guy around. Great to see him clashing with Drive. Good to see that even though this wasn't the cleanest execution in the game, that that this game was entertaining nonetheless. And again, not the cleanest execution on the gameplay front, but definitely an attitude to persevere and to not give up, because Eclipse pulled himself out of the gutter over the course of that game. Thank you all very much for watching. I hope you enjoyed it, and this is Sybert, signing out.